Okay, welcome to Generational Wealth. My name is Jacob Hartz, and I am pleased to be here with none other than attorney, broker, and foreclosure auctioneer, Alexander F. Grange. Alex, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure.
Quite the introduction.
Well, I mean, you wear a lot of hats.
Mm-hmm. Overlapping hats.
The overlapping. You have a big head, and so you're able to keep all those hats in place at once. But we'll get into that when we do. First of all, I mean, I know you pretty well, but the listening audience doesn't know you that well. So I wanted to get to know you with a lightning round of smash or pass.
Let's do it.
All right, Alex, smash or pass. Startup investor Peter Thiel.
Smash.
Palantir founder Alex Karp.
Smash.
Online book salesman Jeff Bezos.
Smash.
Small government enthusiast Elon Musk.
Extra smash.
And finally, a ChatGPT prompt that tells you that your ideas are good.
Well, now I pass on everybody else and only smash ChatGPT. I didn't know that was an option.
Forget all those guys.
I'm out. In.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I think that's all we need to know about you.
Terrific.
Okay, so
I'm out.
you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. We actually,
that's all you need.
We only rented this for 15 minutes. So now that we kind of have a feel of who you are, and we've turned off about 50% of the audience.
Mm-hmm. Also why I'm here.
Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to lose followers.
As many as possible. I
started with so many, and now I have so few. So basically, who are you? Where did you come from? I mentioned a bunch of things that you do now. You're, I would say, a general real estate guy, if someone were to look for a quick headline on who you are.
Correct.
We're here in Chicago. Where did you come from?
Thanks for asking. I am from nearby in Wisconsin, a place called Watertown. It's between Madison and Milwaukee. I was there till about 10. We moved to Milwaukee, then to Chicago. Then I moved to New York. Now I'm back in Chicago. And we always kept the compound in Watertown, Wisconsin.
The family compound.
Yeah. My mom was born there. My grandpa moved there as a young man. She still lives there. My uncle, one of my uncles moved to Chicago and late in life bought a house just down the river back on the homestead compound. So, a lot of years in Wisconsin.
That's
my
pretty
roots
cool.
are there. Yeah.
And you have a lot of real estate people in your family as well, right?
Yeah, none of which started out in real estate, similar to myself, followed a similar trajectory. All of which, one way or the other, ended up very much in real estate, which is why I got into it, I think. In large part, I see the long-term value of it. But at the end of the day, a good portion of your value and investments, your portfolio should have some real estate exposure, I think. Just seeing the successful people in my life, I see a lot of similarities that way.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather started investing. He moved to Watertown to buy a scrapyard, a typical sort of second generation Jewish path. And he was very successful. And again, diversified into real estate over the years. He bought property near the airport. We do have an airport.
Oh, sweet.
A private airport, single runway.
In your compound?
Not a family airport. Watertown.
Do you keep the plane gassed up?
Watertown Municipal.
Yeah.
My father did. He had a plane actually at the airport. He had a hangar.
That's cool.
But nearby, my grandfather bought a piece of property, just fields. He'd buy fields just to have, again, diversified portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
And prior to his death, maybe 5 years, sold it to Walmart and kept the surrounding properties and slowly developed them. And as he passed, it was a nice gift to the family to have
absolutely.
that. And then my mom and her siblings fought over it for about 20 years, developing the rest of the land and deciding what to do. But it all works out in the end.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've had this conversation several times recently. You always hear about these people who buy what seems like a quote unquote worthless piece of land or low value piece of land. And then all of a sudden, after decades, something happens and it's all of a sudden worth, millions or, way more than you bought it for. And so I always wonder, should I be buying city lots or tenement homes in, derelict parts of Chicago or something like that, hoping that one day they become valuable. But, you never know how long you're going to have to hold on to those things for, right?
It's true. You have to do a lot of forethought. He knew the town very well.
Yeah.
He'd been there his
and
whole
he
life.
lived there.
He lived there and knew people in the city council, et cetera. So I wouldn't recommend just buying any real estate. Definitely do your research, talk to people who know, or get to understand yourself. But the right purchase is really beneficial.
So your family's still in real estate up in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Similarly, my father had a company that he sold and then diversified into real estate. My parents got divorced, but they each continued into their own rentals, and it's really sustained them, in their later years. And it's the kind of investment you can be all hands in and, do it yourself and try to maximize your returns at the cost of your time and effort and, that sort of thing. And they each took different paths. My father took the hands-off approach. My mother is always running around trying to rent or fix or whatever, but that's her happy place. She's got to stay busy.
That's really cool.
My grandfather, her father worked till the week he died, and she's the type who needs to stay busy. And that's what's great about real estate. There's a million different ways to invest in it, and you can adapt to your preferences, your needs, and obviously the homeowner too. I mean, there's a million different ways to live. And my business, I wear many hats, and that way I can adapt and meet the needs of my clients wherever they're at.
Nice. So we'll get to kind of what you do on a day-to-day basis now, but did you always kind of have in mind, given your family history, that you would one day get into real estate in some way, shape, or form?
It was not my goal to start out. But after law school, we graduated around the same time from the same school. And it was,
went to the same undergrad,
it's true,
same law school, live in the same neighborhood. Just for full disclosure to the audience,
it's true
that you didn't just walk in on up the street here.
Yes, although we should be fully transparent that we were friends, we were friendly, but not as bosom buddies as we are now. Exactly, got it exactly right. More second degree friends.
That's right.
Yeah, kept a healthy respect and distance. Our wives really brought us together.
That's right. Exactly.
The job market as we graduated law school is probably the worst in history for attorneys.
I remember it well.
I worked in a registered investment advisory, a little bit of compliance, a little bit of investing, and stocks and options and that sort of thing. That firm diversified into real estate, and so I supported them in that diversification, and then branched off on my own as I found ways to help clients more directly. They became a client, one of my larger clients, and then I brought on additional clients.
When you say clients for real estate, what kind of stuff were you doing? Were you helping people buy investment properties, manage things? What did that look like?
Yeah, no management. It's a hard gig, but I would work with primarily homeowners, a fair amount of investors as well. As the dual role attorney agent, I'm really able to help in a broader way than most just agents or just attorneys. When I moved to Chicago, I learned it's very easy to get your real estate license. You don't have to go through all the coursework and everything as attorneys. And it's surprising because you don't see hardly any attorneys who are also agents. And I found that a good mix for me. I think the reason is you think of an attorney, you think of an agent, different personalities, different skill sets. But for me, I'm able to take the skills for both and meld them into unholy amalgam of real estate professionalism that I think my clients really appreciate.
That's great. Yeah. So what did it take to really get started and be independent on that front?
Yeah, I'm a systems guy, and I really like to understand how things work and apply that to problem solving, whether it be my own or my clients. The thing I learned was for first-time homebuyers, actually I learned this from a client, but it's still an important lesson. They're the only ones who've never done this before. The seller has, and everybody else obviously is a professional. So they don't know what questions even to ask. And it was great advice I learned early on in my career where, you have to anticipate and predict and answer those questions that they may not know to ask or have those, broad conversations.
Cool. What would you say is your clientele? So you mentioned investments and also, individual home buyers. How does that mix shake out?
I think we serve similar client bases in terms of age. I know you target high net worth, and I do my fair share of that. But I economically, I would say span the spectrum. The average first-time home buyer is like 30s or 40s now. I think it's part just the economic times. I think it's partly the American dream that they sold us of taking on debt and buying a house didn't pan out for many in student loans, so they have those still to contend with. It's less attractive to buy a home. And I try to solve those problems. I really see the stabilizing effect homeownership has on people, on their families, on communities. It's really just it is the American dream because it provides that buy-in and stability that everybody needs and our country needs.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's getting delayed and deferred is detrimental, unfortunately. So trying to help how I can.
You're doing good work. What do you think of the 50-year mortgage?
It'll be interesting. A lot of people don't like it because it's so long, but I think it has advantages. I think that, it helps make the payments lower, which helps everybody. And
A little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And if you buy it and sell it, you still pay it off the same way you would a 30-year loan. So
Sure.
more options is good for everybody.
Do you think of the people that you see buying their first homes, do you see a lot of people kind of thinking like this is going to be my forever home, or is that people do really think like I'm going to be in here for 5 or 10 years or however long it is, and they're not really thinking about the loan duration because of that?
I always tell clients, if it's less than 5 years, definitely consider renting. These days, appreciation's good, but so much of the interest is upfront that you got to run the numbers and make sure it works.
Yeah.
5+ years, 10 years longer, certainly makes sense. And the stability, your lease isn't going to get terminated or renewed at an exorbitant amount. So I think it does make sense. And most people wouldn't consider staying 30, 50 years anymore. That's just not the way the world works.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the loan they take out, it's numbers. What numbers work for you? What fits into your budget? And you play around interest rate, duration. You make it work for you.
In you started your career when interest rates were super low. Now interest rates have gone up a lot, but it seems like you're still pretty busy. So
try to stay busy.
So how do you kind of explain that, or how do you how have you seen like the market change along with your business, and how's that affected your business?
Yeah, at this point, I haven't seen it all, but I've seen a lot, and it is a big difference from when rates were super low. I should say historically they are still super low. I mean, or at least more towards the average at 5, 6, 7. The old timers on my team and colleagues I work with tell me when it was 15, 20%, and that was just nuts. So we're reverting to the mean, I would say, and I don't think we'll ever see those super low rates again, but like 2, 3%, anybody's got that is hanging on to it for dear life, which is causing everybody else problems because now there's no inventory because those people on super low rates don't want to buy into a much more expensive place at a much higher interest rate. And I've seen that definitely reduce the amount of transactions overall. It used to be days on market was a thing. Now places go before they hit the market on the private network. And
Really?
So you adapt your strategy. The biggest thing is communication, going with a plan and a strategy with your clients to make sure they're aware of risks, pitfalls, and you go in with a good plan and you execute.
So you're saying things are selling faster?
Yeah.
Interesting. I would have thought the opposite.
Because of high rates.
Yeah, but you're saying because there's less inventory,
demand.
What is there is getting snapped up faster.
Demand, yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's tough out there for first-time home buyers. The search process is long because inventory is low and places they might like get snapped away for more than maybe they want to pay. It's competitive. So, you go in with all the tools at your disposal and try your best.
Including this tool.
That's my new tagline. Thank you.
That's fantastic. So we didn't get to one of your hats, which I know you wear as well, which is in the foreclosure auction market.
True.
So what do you do in that space, and how did you get into it?
That was an interesting piece to fit into the puzzle of my business conglomerate of one. It's operated through my firm, my law firm, a solo practice, transactional real estate. I have a relationship with Mr. Fred Lappy, who owns and operates Intercounty Judicial Sales. They are the first private selling officer of foreclosed homes in the state of Illinois. Mr. Lappy was instrumental in getting the law updated to provide for private selling officers. And essentially, it's auctions. We do foreclosure auctions. Other law firms represent the banks who bring foreclosure proceedings. And once concluded, they become eligible for sale. We conduct the sales every day at 11, just down the street here, 120 Madison.
Very nice.
Welcome to come by and check out an auction. It can be fun. It can be very boring.
I hear it can get a little bit hairy sometimes.
It can. I may have a story or two to share. For me, as the market declines, foreclosures increase. So it's sort of a barbell strategy or a hedge for me professionally.
Totally.
As one work may slow, the other sort of picks up. So that's beneficial for me. For clients, investors particularly, presents good opportunities. There's a handful of bidders who make a real good business, professional bidders who come every day and find great deals that you wouldn't otherwise find. But globally, I see the foreclosure process as unfortunate. I think it would be preferable if it didn't exist. I think homeowners should have other options. But with the system we have, if the alternative is for homeowners who can't afford to pay their mortgage, oftentimes can't afford to keep their property in good condition. They can't afford, to do what's necessary to maintain communities and the environment thereby. So it provides a way for others who can. And if you have a neighbor who is negligent in their homeowner responsibilities, then the investor is going to come in, make it nice, improve the neighborhood, which in the long term is good for everybody. Unfortunately, not the homeowner, obviously. But I think there are a lot of programs, too, to help them. So we're sort of the last resort in that regard.
Sure. Well, certainly meets debtor's prison. So
yeah.
The alternative back in the old days was even worse.
Exactly.
Well, then, I mean, that's great. It sounds like a beneficial service that you provide to society at large.
Yep.
You're a bit of a philanthropist, if you will.
I'm blessed. Thank God. It's a really nice collection of hats that I've assembled. And I try, like I say, always to understand the systems, to build systems, solve problems for clients. And it's worked out well.
Cool.
Thankfully.
Very cool. So big picture going forward, if you were, sitting at your retirement party, what do you think people are going to be saying about your career at that point?
Good question.
Not 5 years from now, maybe, but maybe 40 years from now.
Yeah, it's a good question. In life, I think it's good to have goals. It's good to have a plan. It's also good to live in the moment and live in the present and be reactive to what's in front of you. And you have to strike that balance. I've always erred less towards the long term, and sometimes to a fault, sometimes to a benefit. I'd like to be able to grow to that capacity where I can still have the personal touch while freeing my time and being as efficient as possible. With AI, with all the tools we have today. So I bring that to all my hats.
Even the ones with a little propeller on them.
That's just for weekends.
Yeah. That's great. You mentioned AI helping you work better or more efficiently. It's something that everyone is talking about right now. How is AI going to help or change people's jobs? I remember years ago when Redfin came out, and there was kind of chatter that Redfin.
We don't use that word here.
Yeah.
You can bleep that out, right?
Yeah. Internet brokerage website. Insert here. When that particular site came out, a lot of people were speculating, is this going to get rid of brokers? Maybe you have a different perspective, but from my perspective, brokers haven't gone anywhere. So why do you think that real estate seems to be resilient to AI?
Great question. Could someone buy or sell a home without an agent or attorney? Certainly legally, yes. Many clients or people out there could and maybe should. I think if I were buying a home, I don't know that I would. And not to sell myself short or to provide arguments why not to employ me, the vast majority of people out there either don't want the responsibility or are busy and expert in other things.
So my context for that is in the wealth management world, when things like Betterment or Wealthfront came out that would manage portfolios for people algorithmically or whatever it is, and so try and replace kind of like a certain level of financial advisor. I don't think that really changed anything for another type of financial advisor, which is much more hands-on, maybe more sophisticated, more, I don't want to use the term upmarket, but serving more complex needs.
Yeah.
And so I feel like there's probably a similar dynamic in a lot of industries, but I still feel as just, a normal person walking around that I don't see AI like taking a big chunk out of a real estate broker's business.
Yeah. Knowing you as I do, you're more of a Luddite than I, whereas I'm probably
Indeed,
on the
I am.
Other end of the spectrum where I'm a futurist, all in. I'm connected at all times. Like I think AI.
This microphone is actually fully mechanical.
Yeah, and there with the crank.
Got to crank it up in here.
Exactly. Although, I see AI eventually we're farmers before the Industrial Revolution, and we're all running around remembering and learning how to like sow crops when tractors are about to roll in and change everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think literally everything is going to be affected in ways we can't foresee. You couldn't talk to a farmer then and try to teach them like spreadsheets, middle management, like Zoom, whatever, because they didn't have the language to understand it.
Yeah,
it's the same for us. We can't foresee now how it's all going to fit together. From what I see a little bit, I would guess would agree that I think agents serve a human role, and people want that human connection. This is the biggest purchase in many people's lives. They want to know there's a person there to make sure they're safe and protected and their needs are being met, and they want to accomplish their goals. They're not going to hand that over to a faceless clanker.
Yeah.
I think the legal work I do is probably more at risk. But again, AI is a tool, and how do you use it, and how do you get more efficient, and how do you adapt it and respond to it? I don't know. I think it was Socrates was concerned when writing was becoming more prevalent that people's memories would atrophy. Every new invention since then have been the doomsdayers saying it's going to take our jobs, it's going to ruin the world, it's going to end, and look at where we are, with every step of the way.
Yeah, exactly. Our memories are terrible.
But look at
Socrates was right.
That's very true.
Yeah, but he also didn't get to live in a high rise, so.
Running water,
That's
heat,
right.
etc. There's a million
Exactly.
comforts.
Exactly.
I'm a very big optimist, despite all the risks and concern and issues we have today. I'm not saying those aren't real, but I think if you look at data and the day-to-day experience and take a step back, there's a million reasons. We're living in the greatest period in history, and I think people don't appreciate it. And I think that AI is just the next step that we're going to look back and be like, there's countless ways this has improved my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to resist it because maybe it's going to replace my legal work. I'm going to learn about it, try to make it work better, try to serve my clients better, and adapt. And I think that's all you can do.
I love that. As you mentioned, I am more of a Luddite and maybe a skeptic. I'm not like all in, let's say, on every new advancement, but I do recognize where it makes our lives a lot easier. I also think that the more exposure people have to, AI chat bots and things like that, the less they will rely on them because they realize that they're imperfect and their limits, et cetera, and it's like, when you need customer service or something like that, and
you're stuck on with some robot who
yes, I would rather talk to someone overseas who has an imperfect understanding of English than an AI chatbot.
Yeah.
Because, at least, you can explain something in human terms.
Right.
Anyway.
Give it 6 months.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the answer.
Yeah. It's always 6 months
It'll eventually
away.
get better.
Yeah.
But even if the robot can perform the job perfectly well, I think people do crave some sort of human interaction at some point. And so I see a lot of businesses that have embraced that approach of using AI right up to the point of human interaction.
Yeah.
So they can make all of our jobs much easier for us as humans to do. But the end goal is it allows you to spend more time face to face with people, with humans, because I think that's ultimately what we do crave.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's like a scientific rationale for that or anything like that. I just think that humans like hanging out with humans.
Yeah, human connection. It's an important thing.
Yeah.
You can quote me on that.
Yeah. I mean, this being the main notable exception.
Fair.
On that note, now, changing gears slightly, I know that you're a voracious reader, so I'm not going to ask you to pick one book, but if you could pick maybe your top like 2 or 3 that have been most influential for you, what would you say?
Yeah, you tipped me off that question might be coming. So I'm a book pusher, as you know firsthand. My wife has accused me of buying people books they're never going to read, they don't want. But
I just want to state for the record that I'm about 10% of the way into the book that you gave me last.
Further along than last time.
Yeah,
so
that's
right.
good. And it's great.
Terrific. So don't encourage me. I do have a habit of sending people books, and that's because I think it's so important to read. It's so important to stay on top of all these developments and trends, or to look back historically, a lot of fiction, just to understand, it's the best lesson from where we might be going. The book I picked to talk about today is probably The Rational Optimist.
Mm.
I don't recall the author's name. I did have a piece of paper here. I didn't write his name on it, so we can look that up.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect. In the comments.
That's right.
Yeah.
Smash that like button.
Yep. Include that. So the idea of it touches on a lot of what we talked about. There is so much doom and gloom, and there's reasons for doom and gloom. It's not like it's unfounded, but mainstream media really makes its money off of rage bait and terror and, triggering people for clicks. And it works. All the positive news doesn't get clicked on the same way the negative does. Everything from climate destruction to, the economy to the politics. It's really a lot of negativity is thrown at us at all times. And this book lays out evidence-based information about how there's a million reasons to be positive, more than negative. And in every problems aren't a problem. If there weren't problems, we wouldn't come up with solutions. The human capacity to problem solve is without limit, which is another book I've read called The Beginning of Infinity. And it's very dense, but they sort of overlap in evidence-based optimism. And it talks about hedonistic adaptation, where people get used to pleasure and the things that they start to take for granted. And so addicts or whomever might get stuck on that, needing more and more and more. Everybody has that capacity, and we just get used to the comforts we have. But if you took someone from even 150 whatever years ago and plopped them down into what we have today, we live better than kings throughout all of history.
Yeah.
Hot running water, go into a grocery store, unlimited choice of anything you've ever wanted. And it's incredible. And how can we use these resources and tools to further better the world and to uplift the half of the world who still lives in deplorable conditions, and not to weaken the strong. You can't, my father always says, I'm going to screw it up. You ready?
Yeah.
You can't strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. I think I got it right.
You pulled that off perfectly.
I think so. And that idea holds very true. And books like these really show how to leverage our strengths to improve our own lives, to improve the lives around us. And again, going back to what my career, I've always trying to learn and grow and take advantage of the tools I have at my disposal to help my clients. And you can expand the economic pie. It's not a limited pie. People say, oh, the rich should be taxed, to help the poor. They're successful. They've proven their success. Let's empower them to be successful. And yes, there should be mechanisms for that to benefit everybody. But how can we do it? And books like that really lay out a path to that.
That's really cool. I identify with that strongly, because I think that the corollary to what you're talking about, being a rational optimist, is also being grateful for what we have.
Yeah.
And to your point about someone living in what we would call poverty in a city like Chicago, it's obviously very difficult to live in poverty for anybody at any time, but they have access to way more than a rich person living 300 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of maybe like a giant house. But aside from that, the creature comforts, you think about, I used to think about a lot traveling back in time and being able to experience other eras and things like that. And I was like, oh, if I could go back in time and see this or do that with the knowledge I have now, like I'd be like king of the world.
You'd pass out from the smell.
First of all, you'd pass out from the smell. That's a fantastic point. Yeah. Second of all, you get a cold or a headache,
and you're done.
No Advil, no Dayquil, and no Tums, no Pepto-Bismol. Like all of the normal stuff that we take. Like people would drop dead on the street from getting a fever back then.
Yeah,
that was a terrible thing. So just like being grateful for everything we have, even if you're not the richest guy in the world, there's a lot to be grateful for.
By any measurable data point, the vast majority of the world has it far better than at any point throughout history.
Yeah.
Longevity, infant mortality, all the things we've discussed, it's exponentially improving.
Yeah.
And is there work to be done? Absolutely. 1 billion people, I think, still live without many of these creature comforts. And like 3 billion people still are like subsistence, even with some of those creature comforts. So I'm not optimistic, a rational optimist. You need both. And you need to say, we have a responsibility to use our resources and our strengths to help everyone that we can, but we shouldn't necessarily run around, in doom and gloom saying the world's about to end, because that's defeatist. And then
you're saying we're on a good path.
Yeah. And these books, the beginning of infinity, again, lays out we're in an exponential curve of growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where, things continue horizontally and then they turn vertically. And at that inflection point, that's where we are now. And you can't tell, but you look back at the trends and everything is moving up, and it's all very positive, and try to be positive and to be appreciative and grateful, like you say, is the only way to get by. Because otherwise, what's the point?
Well, that's a fantastic place to end this, I think.
42 minutes.
Perfect. That's a fantastic place to end this.
It's another book I like, the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh yeah? What's the connection there? I didn't read that one.
The answer to the life, the meaning of life, or no, I'm going to screw it up again. But what's the meaning of life? And the answer is life, the universe, and everything. The answer is 42.
Nice. Which is
what's the question that we have to figure
7.
out. My kids are going to love it.
Yeah. This has gone from here straight to here. We were doing great.
And you had to bring in 6, 7.
We went way off the rails. Yeah. The great thing about that is that this is very much not evergreen content. That's highly relevant now. It may be relevant by the time this actually gets posted, but for sure in 6 to 7 months.
No one's going to think about 6, 7. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah. No one's going to think about it.
Yeah. Could be.
Could be. We
still talk about 69. So
that's true.
That's got more sticking power, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, we still do. We still talk about that. the elders recount to their grandchildren. I'm keeping all of this in.
Good.
Fantastic. Okay. On that note, it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
I was in a pretty bad mood beforehand, but now I'm feeling a little bit more optimistic.
Usually after conversations with me, it's the other way around.
I was in a bad mood because I knew I was going to have this conversation.
There you go.
But you really turned it around. So thank you.
Thank you.
And that's Alex Grange, attorney, broker, foreclosure auctioneer, hat wearer.
Avid hat wearer.
Yeah, avid hat wearer and optimist. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome.